Hello again. I'm going to stop talking about like in my last video and things like that. I should probably stop doing that because I don't know actually what I'm going to even be uploading. So that's going to really get very confusing if I start saying in my last video and it's not in my last video. So I will try to not do that. These are being recorded in a very improvisational way right now, with not really much of a plan or notes or anything. I have a computer monitor in front of me that has like a white screen on it, or just like for light. Anyway, like I recorded a couple more videos since that intro one, but I'm not sure I'm going to use them because they were just so, well, a number of reasons. Because I think there's something very different about the nature of things I record during the day and night, actually. There's something very, very different about that. Like it's the energy thing. I don't think I'm doing the same thing when I record during the day and when I'm recording at night. Of course, I probably am. I'm just saying this. In the or maybe I will upload those other ones. I don't know. I'm going to at least try to maybe stick to a topic per video. Like, aside from like these intro things like this. See, I can't, no, see, I'm gonna just upload those old videos. This is not how this is gonna work. I'm just gonna upload everything I record, I think. For the most part. It would have to just be like throwaway garbage to not upload it. See, I was like wondering, like for this moment, I'll be honest, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to say I'm perfect about this stuff. You know, I'm saying this is like a back and forth, and that's what this is, a back and forth with the viewership that maybe I'll have, or maybe I won't, I don't know. It's a back and forth with myself. Because I was like, well, I swore one time. There were a couple of times the last one where I was like, it felt like the right word, but I didn't avoid it. And then I did one time that I was like, oh, maybe I don't want to do that. I want to make this a very family-friendly channel. No. No, but I'll just put it up there. Okay. Or maybe I'll look into like monetization stuff and that and make the decision based on that, because I don't know. But I feel like that probably would just affect the single video. I'm not like, this is like, I'm not like marking this isn't for YouTube Kids or something. But it's just like, I just turn it on and just say stuff. That's the only thing I feel like there's a weird way that you can get where it feels like that's all you can do. And like you can't, you know that if you hesitate and there's a way, okay, actually I know what this video can be about. Look. Well, it's just about doing the thing. I mean, you know, technically we could just say that's all this is ever about. Because it turns out that like, you can operate from, rather than having all the specifics, all this positive space in your life, operating like in control. Look, nothing's in control really, right? It's an illusion that the positives, by positive I mean like the note versus the rest. I've called this blip, not here, But I've thought the blip versus the whoosh. I can't remember if I made. I can't remember if I encountered. I think I just made that up. I didn't really make it up. Because I didn't. I learned those words. I didn't make up any. I've never made up anything. My own concept of who I am came from other things. So it's just kind of like secondhand crap. And it doesn't make sense to take secondhand crap very seriously. And I'm not being like taking this in a depressed way, okay? So, what was I saying? Oh, well, there's a way to, you just switch to what you're operating. You say, I identify, I'm the rest, not the note. And when you're in the notes, it's so complicated. Because it's like, what note is it? There are all these notes. I don't know which one to be. But a rest is a rest. It's pretty simple. And that's why you do the thing. Remember, doing the thing is looking at the thought, and it stops. I can't suggest that enough for somebody who's caught in the grip of fighting with themselves. Like, you don't, it's difficult to let yourself do this. I think there are kind of absurd reasons for why it's difficult to let yourself do the thing. It has something to do with like your ego, and like it thinks it's gonna die or something, like literally. Because you think that you have this heavy thought structure who drags your entire life. Your life story, right? Your identity. But if it's just a big distorted feedback loop, that's all that is mostly. And even what's not is a secondhand crap. Why do you take it so seriously that you drag it around? I mean, the answer is probably like, I guess people think they're gonna get some, like by, you just want to. I mean, that's pretty, that sounds kind of callous, but it is true. At one point I did that more. And why? Because I would say it's because I wanted to. It's because I thought I could figure something. It was an innocent mistake maybe, but it's because I thought I could figure something out by analyzing ruminative thought patterns just a little bit more. Somehow this time will be the last time I look at something. We know a variety of things, but like specific things. And you have your own things, right? Surely you have your own things like this. I mean, I don't know how you found this video. If you don't, if you like have no ruminative thought issues. Is anybody interested in spirituality who doesn't have ruminative thought issues, or who didn't at some point in their life have ruminative thought issues? Because isn't rumination basically hell? Isn't that basically what hell is? Hell is the self, as opposed to hell is other people, which is like some quote, right? Because you split your mind in two, right? You split your mind in two, and they fight. And like the ego and the shadow, right? Are they real even? The shadow is all the stuff that your shadow is everything bad about you, that you think is bad about you, is a disaster to just let function, and it makes your ego. Your ego is the secret monster here. In your effort to cover up the shadow, the ego is going to, you create a blind spot where the selfish ego makes actually the lives of everybody around you kind of a little worse. It's not very nice to be around somebody like that. Of course, I mean, well, I think maybe you see what I mean. You have to spot this, you know. Your real worst behavior is not what you think it is. So I have to stop the video for a second. I have like eye issues, and I have to do eye drops. But I'll resume the video in a second. All right, I'm back. It's weird when you say things like, I have eye issues, right after talking about the ego and the shadow and like you split yourself in two and that kind of thing, eye issues. You know, there's a lot of weird stuff like that. And if you really, really are mindful and you really, really pay attention, you start to notice that it's like, there's like multiple layers to what you're saying. There's like a symbolic, poetic layer on top of what you think the literal thing of what you're saying is. And it's not just that simple. There's multiple layers of these. Like, you write something a long time ago that means one thing, and then you later look at it and it makes way more sense in a kind of weird way. Like, this is adjacent to the idea of synchronicities. I mean, it is synchronicities. It feels like it. And then on top of that, and then you're like, okay, well now I've completely uprooted my subconscious. So I no longer talk in subconscious symbols, right? But no, I don't think it's that simple. I think there's a layered thing here. And so like you go from symbols to literal to symbols to literal, and it's kind of like this weird perpendicular upward structure as you slowly uproot the entire subconscious. That's what this is about, is uprooting the subconscious. That's what we want to do. Like, to get to higher consciousness, you uproot the subconscious. You want to be aware of it. It's all right there if you're really willing to look. But I don't think that, I mean, look, maybe many people are willing to, maybe many people are willing to uproot their own subconscious. I'm kind of saying that the key thing here is that what you think is the worst aspect of yourself. Look, everything's fine ultimately. You know, there is no worst aspect of yourself. Like, please, like, chill about that. This is a light thing, you know. It's all kind of in good fun. We're uprooting it. We're our subconscious. We're annihilating ourselves in good fun, you know. But like, we have to annihilate the self just because we're curious about what's going on and we want to see it clearly, or feel it, or be it, and with like stupid old garbage from when you were like 16 or something, and you're dragging that. The curious child you were at 8 or something would not be thrilled that you're dragging some society-imposed stupid rumination at age, like, whatever it is, 30-something, 40-something, whatever. When the 8-year-old you was just curious about what's going on. And deep down, you still are curious about what's going on. This is the sad part. People really are still curious about what's going on deep down, but the society doesn't, you know, there's no money to be made, right, off of that. Actually, there is money to be made off of it. Why am I saying this? Like, there's tons of science videos and stuff on YouTube, right? But I'm I'm talking about, like, The science videos, though, they don't just say, just look at, just sit there and just look at what is. I have nothing against science at all. It's just that anything that's like, it's a little too, everything can be done in like a curious, high energy, light way, full of curiosity, or a heavy way. You know, science is no exception. Some things it's kind of hard to see what the light thing would even be. Like I mentioned politics in another video. I shouldn't be saying that. I'll probably upload that. It's kind of hard to see where that's light, right? That seems like, well, you know, it's hard to understand that. It's weird, like somebody runs on a platform helping people, half the population. I'm going to get half, this is what happens, you notice this if your opinions get kind of loose. I'm going to run to get half the population, roughly, what they want. And I'm an amazing person for it. But half the population is not going to get what they want. Meaning I'm going to do nothing except basically just boost my own ego and give myself power. Is that accurate? I don't know. I'm not saying it is. It's just weird, like, obviously, like I vote, but I vote lightly, or I don't know. Like, it is a little hard to see that being light, right? But anyway, science, it's very easy to see science as light. Science is often light, right? But it can be heavy, right? Religion, like, in a weird way, like spirituality and religion, it almost seems like spirituality is just light, religion is just the light thing, and religion is the heavy thing. Is that true? I don't really know. I'm keeping this channel fairly anonymous for now. I don't think there's really any identifying stuff here, much. But that might change. I don't know. This is just start. And I was not raised religiously, but I wasn't like raised by, like, it wasn't like I wasn't raised by like hardcore atheists or anything. It was just kind of like, I don't know. It is what it is. But I guess I'm sharing stuff. It's just funny. I guess suppose it's just like on a connection with the audience. So I tell you about about me in a way that you don't know who I am. Like the weird, I can share a good bit of personal stuff actually without that. And this is something I don't know that, I think this could be something that differentiates me from the AI slot videos. Like I do remember when I was really, really little, like kind of like asking my mom if heaven is real, like crying, maybe, I think like crying and asking if heaven was real. I was maybe like, I don't know how old I was, 5? I don't really know. But, and of course she said yes. But I didn't really believe it. Probably, I don't think I really believed it. So, and I was very wary, thought a lot about death in my life for some reason. Like, I know that sounds absurd. This kind of sounds like a joke. But like I did that, like I worded it, like I really worded it, because if you're not, yeah, I guess I just wondered about it, you know? Yeah. But the death we're scared of is like, it's not really like death. We're scared of ego death. At least that's how it seems to me at this point. Like, that's what you're scared of. You don't really, you're scared of doing the thing in a way, like, kind of comically. No, it's very, very difficult to be caught in rumination. I know, I really do realize this. I say this stuff in jest because the point is that the channel is light, but like, this is, I wouldn't be making this channel if I didn't realize that being caught in thought is like pure hell. Like it's really horrible because it's like somehow my point is I understand. When you do the thing, you actually start to wind back things, and you start to like, it's like before you do the thing, you're thinking from, before you do the thing, you are thinking from left to right. After you do the thing, now you're thinking from right to left. I don't know that that's like, not every language. Obviously, there are some languages that are written from right to left, and you just flip what I'm saying. But this, I'm speaking English on this channel, so this English works that way. Although somebody could be watching with the subtitles, or somebody for some reason seriously wants to watch this with like auto-generated subtitles and some other language. And I think I might talk a little too mumbly or something to be able to even be comprehended by auto-generated subtitles, but maybe they work okay. What was I saying? Oh, you start to like go in, and it starts to unravel the horrible knot you wound of rumination. You do the thing with a recurring thoughts thread, it slowly unwinds, and it really leads you to interesting places. And you don't realize that this is like really like, somehow, weirdly enough, curiosity and stuff comes back into life by doing this, to a certain degree anyway. But the thing I was saying before about like the space between thoughts or something like that, I think I said something like that. Doing the thing is like, it's like saying before you're like, I'm trying to figure out, an analogy I like is this, I'm trying to figure out what the drawing of my life is, like a pencil drawing, like a black and white drawing. And it's very difficult to do that by trying to figure out the drawing itself, because it could be so many things, right? But the white space is the white space. And by doing the thing, you're finding the white space. At least this is how I view it. I mean, I could be completely wrong, to be honest. Like this is really, this is like, this channel is, you're just listening to somebody talk to himself. That's it. Maybe you get something out of it. But anyway, so the white space is just the white space, and if you uncover a lot of the white space, the drawing is actually implied. Identifies the white space enough, the drawing will just be there. It's like another way of arriving at something. Can you arrive at it the other way? I don't know. I mean, maybe. Are there two ways to do this? Maybe. I mean, the distinction might be completely illusory, ultimately. The distinction between the negative space and the positive space, because inaction and action aren't really are like a false duality, basically. There's no such. What do you mean inaction? Do you think so? Rest isn't action? Isn't it action? Everything is constantly changed. but there's illusions, perhaps illusions, that are helpful to buy into, because you've bought into them a different way. So flip the illusion to neutralize the old conditioning. I think of this as like you have a pain narrative you've been dragging. A very heavy pain narrative. Invert the pain narrative. Invert your positions on everything. You'll end up doing this if you do the thing a lot and you identify with the white space. Because the shadow is these positions you're scared to have. Oh no. See, you don't really know any, you don't really have, I'm not sure we have really positions on anything, because our ego has these positions because it doubts them, because the shadow has the opposite position. So we don't really have positions on anything, do we? At least that's how it seems to me. But like you embrace the shadow, the opposite position, but and that happens in a kind of light way. It's not the same. Like you don't, because I'm not saying be reactionary and angry and be heavy with the reverse opinion. I don't know that that's even very doable. I'm not sure that that's even much of a thing. I know it is a thing. Like somebody who's like who's like raised religious, and they like react against it very angrily later on or something, maybe. That's just like some random example that I don't actually identify with really, so I don't. But like, you end up just kind of like being kind of loose with your opinions, and it's kind of like whatever, you just say stuff. Like you start, it begins an unraveling process. And I'm not sure that this process is even really something that you have any real control over. If we want to talk about, if we want to use the term spiritual awakening, I'm not sure that that even really exists. You know? Because if you really look into it, you'll end up seeing like, it just put you back where you were. But it turns out where you were was a very good place to be, relative to dragging on a horrible big weight. But spiritual awakening is just a phrase. I have no idea. I can't know that people are talking about the same thing when they say words. You know, I can just say what I say, they say what they say, and stuff goes on. Because talking is at its best when it's an analog signal. And frequency, we hear about frequency in like spiritual terms. But the thing about this stuff is I can't help but feel like, if this stuff is really, really there, right, we should be able to talk about it in a very overt way. We don't need to use poetic language. Why use poetic language? So, frequency, okay, first of all, I could be completely full of, but I'm just going to say it anyway, okay? So, you want to be light. Light is high frequency, because high frequency is like, and low frequency is, and the peak and the trough. There's a peak and a trough. There's going to be a peak and a trough. Until, perhaps, if it's possible, if the ego and the shadow totally merge. They've revealed the distinction totally disappears. It's like not even a tiny little thread. Until that happens, as far as I'm concerned, there's going to be a peak and a trough. And you are like a This is how I would describe frequency. But I'm not an expert on this. I'm an idiot. Like, I'm just gonna say it though. You're like a what is the term? Analog digital converter. Yeah, you're an analog digital converter. You convert the raw signal into a digital sample. You sample a digital analog signal. You know? The ego and the shadow are the 1 and 0, or 0 and 1 of a sampling, of a digital sampling of an analog signal. And talking, not words. The talking that you can't know. The talking of now. You don't know now. You can't know now. You only know what just happened. And that might have nothing to do with now. Humans might be completely wrong about what they know. So don't like say, I know that what I am looking at is false, but you can't really say I know what I'm looking at is true. Although I suppose you could just say, well, what is true. But anyway, that's besides the point. What I'm saying is, like frequencies like this. You're an analog digital converter, and you want your sample rate to be very high fidelity. You want to get a very accurate sample. See, humans are like an after image. They're like an echo. We're living the echo of the now. We're the echo of the now. And we want to, like, you can imagine thing with this, like the sine wave or whatever, the staircase looking thing. We want those steps, those samples to be very, very fine, because we want our after image to better reflect the now. So you want, and you do that by being light, because by being light, the sample, it updates more. You get more samples. You sample what's going on more often, and therefore you have a better picture of what's going on. And that's all I'm saying. If you're lost in ruminative thought, you aren't You're not. If you're doing the thing, every time you do the thing, it's like I'm increasing my sample rate. Like I'm trying to increase my sample rate here. If you're lost in ruminative thought, you really have it's like a low quality MP3, right, or something. Like you want like a lossless, close to lossless anyway, close to lossless sample. And this is about heavy and light. Heavy and light are the real bad and good. Of course, I'm just redefining terms. Look, hey, if you want to say bad and good are the arbitrary stuff that you were conditioned with, and somebody else in some other country has opposite definitions, go ahead. But can you see the problem here? Light is light, though, and everybody across the world would be happier with light, and they'd get along better with light if they go with good in a certain moralistic way. They don't have the same morals as you always, not even in the same town. So you think heavy, good and evil in a heavy way. It gets us anywhere? I am gonna stop the video here for a moment. Okay, I'm back. The thing that we were talking about was like good and evil. Okay. And I was just saying that kind of moralistic way that we tend to view it. Some people. Obviously, that's just what good and evil are to most people. It's like whatever they said, whatever they think is good, whatever they think is evil, and they were programmed like a computer to say certain things are good and certain things are evil, and there are absolutely things in the past and things that other cultures do that we Americans, so I'm just talking from that perspective, think is evil, and it's because we're programmed to think it's evil. That's why. Unless you're really going to say that somebody just born in another culture and doing what they do, that culture does, is evil. But isn't it evil to say somebody's evil for just the culture they're in? Isn't that kind of messed up? Anyway, and then when you both take it heavily, I mean, don't you see like wars going on right now are basically because of doing this? I mean, maybe I don't know. Is it because of that? I don't know. Like, I don't really know. Okay, but like, being, if they were, heavy is the real evil here. Light is the real good. I know I'm just redefining terms. We don't have to. We could either go beyond good and evil, or it's less light and actually light and heavy, or we can redefine good and evil and make them mean light and heavy. And by light and heavy, I'm talking about the feeling of light and the feeling of heavy. I'm talking stuff beyond words, as I said in the first video. This is like visceral philosophy. So this is about. You call it whatever you want. I mean, you can call it like weird words if you want, but like nobody's gonna know what you're talking about. The feeling of light, or maybe they will, but the feeling of light and heavy. That's good and evil, because light feels good. Heavy doesn't. Heavy feels bad. But next time you feel heavy, do the thing. And you might see that like this is all just sort of a word game. The heavy stuff. That is, heavy is even really real. And then it might just all be light, right? It gets very light anyway. It gets pretty light if you do that. That's how it seems to me. Do we want to go anywhere else with that? Well, maybe I'll save this for another video. Yeah, I think I will. I hope I didn't miss something here. But you do the thing with, and really begin to identify with the negative space. Oh, okay, I know what I wanted to say. So, or it's what I want to say now anyway. You see, good and evil are both evil. Or they're both good, but both of those become nonsensical once you get to that point. Because good implies evil, doesn't it? We have a definition of good. Good is all this stuff, and the existence of saying those things are good implies there can be something that's not good. And is good even good then? the moralistic type of good, is that even good if by necessity it implies evil? That seems to suggest good is evil. Or we can go the other way around. Evil implies good. Because evil is all of this stuff, and therefore and there's these opposites. This is implied. So evil is good, good is evil? Like, I hope someone watching this maybe gets something out of considering this. Like, you know, and isn't there the I'm never claimed to be an expert at these things, but there's like the fruit and the tree of knowledge and that kind of thing, and the knowledge of good and evil, right? And the knowledge of good and evil makes things a lot harder for people. And maybe that's because that isn't even really, they got it wrong. They got the divide wrong. Humans attempted to like save away, like digitize and save good and evil. But good and evil is perhaps heavy and light. And they tried to save it, like through words, you know, knowledge. And saving that, digitizing it, eventually really just doesn't work. Because words are basically empty vessels. And that you fill with meaning, but they're like leaky bottles. You try, for a bit, people get that they signified a certain feeling, but eventually it means something else. You know? And so everything, our reality became distorted, sort of mess from embracing, saying we could know good and evil. Versus good and evil are something you feel it and you follow your heart. I'm not trying to. No, I mean it though. You do. And then you feel light. And this is not something you get close to what is, and then things get lighter, and that I mean, I don't know if I have anything else to say about that. But like, is this going to help someone? This video? I don't know. You know, I think we're like, you know, all unraveling ourselves, so to speak. We wind ourselves up very tightly. It gets very, very heavy. We think heaviness is the way to go for a time. And wind ourselves up, and eventually, at some point, whether it's over who knows what, I don't know, lives, or a life, or whatever, lives, I think. But I don't. Look, eventually it unravels, you know. You just wind yourself up until you unwind yourself. That's it. And you're just going to wind yourself up until you unwind yourself. I don't think there's. I'm not sure there's anything like, we just tell ourselves that we're caught in the illusion of cause and effect. I'm not a scientist and I don't claim to be an expert, and I might be completely full of it, but it's staring us right in the face with quantum physics that cause and effect doesn't exist, and yet we still buy into it. One of the things that's happening is a story about cause and effect. It's a happening with a pretend cause and effect story lagging behind it. And that's human existence. The echo is trying to solve the problems of the present that don't exist. The echo is trying to solve the non-existent problems of the present because it's caught in this cause and effect illusion. I mean, it's not illusion. I mean, it's here, but it's part of things. But you eventually unwind. And I'm not sure, I think it's just, look, you end up coming up with a narrative, and somebody comes up with the narrative that I did something to unwind. I did something to start some unraveling process. I don't think that's true. I'm just being honest. I just don't think it's true. But, some kind of a story is going to come out of what you do, because that's the human condition. But the cause and effect story of a human is more like a work of art, like a little bit more like a work of fiction maybe than some grim, heavy work of nonfiction. You know what I mean? If the work of fiction you want is, I achieved spiritual awakening, and through blah 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 blah, and now I'm unraveling and that kind of thing through something I did, through cause and effect. You can have that story, just like you can have any other story. And if I tell people about this stuff and and it helps somebody, they can have that story if they want. But I don't know. I don't even know that spiritual awakening exists. You can tell that certain thing, like there's a visceral sensation that you can have that profoundly changes things in a way, but yet nothing has really changed. And I don't know. I don't know that this look, if the videos help somebody, it helps me. Look, the way, one way to view it is like everybody's life is a math problem, and a slightly different math problems. Maybe nobody has the exact same math problem, because we all have different conditioning. But it could be a disguise, and we may all have the exact same math problem, but it's energy and the visceral feelings underneath the words that would reveal that. The words themselves imply different math problems, and we're very, very drunk on words, or convinced of the very different lives we lead because of words. And so because of that, somebody who has more similar word conditioning would maybe find it easier to look at the work of somebody else and maybe get something out of it, who has similar conditioning. What I mean is, if my math problem is similar to somebody else's math problem, then they might get something out of looking at my work a little. But that doesn't mean we have the exact same math problem. And I'm not so sure it doesn't mean that we actually all as humans have the exact same math problem, just clouded by the weight of words. So we need to feel, get very familiar with how to feel energy and realize that words are not it. You know? I'm not talking about talking, I'm talking about words. I'm talking about the digitization of talking. I think this video is pretty long, so okay, all right. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you like the channel, you could please subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Have a good day. All right. Bye.